another Insight Now Kingdom Thought. This is the start of Kingdom Thought with Mark and Daniel. Daniel of the New Testament. Daniel Davison. Hey.
Hey.
I think it's really interesting, as we were just, talking about how things work and, how we're doing and how we're working. Just realized that, I can do live stream by myself, which is, pretty cool. But I figured that I can do it better when I'm working with somebody else who I'm in a relationship to. So Daniel and I are going to experiment and talk with you guys about kingdom and kingdom in the marketplace and, all those sorts of things. So Daniel's going to be, I'm just excited about doing this new venture with you on a regular basis.
Yeah, I'm excited as well, for sure. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it is. Well, what about if we, introduce you to people and just to, to see, what it looks like as far as going forward, and get to know you a little bit better. So, how about you share about you?
About me?
Yeah.
All right. So I am 34 years old. I live in Rockwall, Texas, which is just outside of Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived here for about 3 years. I moved here from Utah, and I'm happily married 10 years this year, and have 2 little boys and one on the way that we're not finding out till the child's born. So we're really excited about that. I'm one of 3 partners in a building firm just outside of Dallas. So we just build commercial residential homes. So that's just a little bit about what I'm up to right now.
So where did you live the most in around the US? What areas did you move around a bit, or were you?
Well, so I was born in San Diego, California. I was only there just a couple years. My dad joined the military, and we moved to Louisiana, and then we moved to the Philippines. My brother was born there. Then we came back to Vegas. All this time, my dad's in the Air Force. My youngest brother was born in the Air Force. And then most of my life, I remember, was I moved to Twin Falls, Idaho, which is southern Idaho, the very bottom part of Idaho. And I spent about 21 years of my life growing up, from about the time I was 7 years old until I was about 31. Was kind of in between Twin Falls and Layton, Utah.
So, so your parents are originally from Wyoming, is that right?
Yeah, I actually can't remember the name of the towns. I know Cheyenne, and I can't remember the other one. It's just a little town. I've driven past it. It's like one of those, you kind of blink and you're gone. I can't remember the name of it. So, but yeah, they're both.
So what do you share about how we met?
Okay, so I moved to Texas, just like I said, about 3 years ago, and my uncle, JC, it's in Kingdom, KDG with us. He lived in Oklahoma, about 8 hours from where I lived. I needed some work because I just moved. I was in the process of starting my business with my brother, and needed some money, and so he offered 2 weeks worth of work. I went up there, had an amazing encounter with Jesus, and really got brought into a whole new understanding of the Bible from a spirit-filled perspective. I got my first prophetic words and all. It was just an amazing encounter. And he told me that I needed to come back up there about a month and a half and meet this crazy guy from Australia named Mark Crawford that he had met. So I came up to the conference. I actually remember going with Uncle JC to pick you up at the airport. That's when I first met you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we went to that great institution in America, KFC, right?
Yeah, KFC. Yeah. I'm not too big of a fan, but it fit for the moment, and hungry. So yeah.
Yeah. And so I from what I've seen of of you really that event and those times where obviously God brought you to encounter some things.
Yes.
It doesn't seem like anything's been the same since, right?
No, it doesn't feel like it's only been 3 years. I would say I've lived a lifetime. I feel like I've lived a lifetime in the last 3 years, as I feel like I didn't really start living until about 3 years ago, when Jesus just, I mean, the Father just manifested to me and told me who He was, and it sent me on a path of discovery, for
Mhm.
sure. Because I'm a feeler, and I love to love, and so when Jesus showed me all His love, I had to know what that was, and I just went after it. So it's been an adventure.
Yeah. So, what can you describe some of the sorts of things that you've learned? Maybe I can, because I know some of those things, but some of the things that you've learned about the kingdom, because I think that you were quite used to the church or the church age, right? Which we
Mhm,
talk about being the church age, and
mhm,
what you've discovered over the last couple of years is really about a whole new arena of the kingdom. The gifts of the Spirit, things about the kingdom. And I've watched you um, really. I mean, there's other people that I've seen, but I've seen you in an accelerated path,
mhm.
accelerated way in which you have, so moved so quickly through things. So, what are some of the sorts of things that would be highlights for you that have really um, taken you into a new place? Revelational sorts of things.
It was really simple revelation at first. It was kind of, I got some keys. I knew so much about the Bible growing up in very much a fundamental Christian home. It was a great home to grow up in. We went to church every week, and of course, I read my Bible, and I really learned a lot through that. I mean, I feel like it was like some foundational things, but really, I didn't quite understand the Bible. And so when I got some keys and seen how simple the Bible really was, that was the thing. But so I think the biggest key for me from my past was that my past didn't define me. That there really was actual, that I could repent, I could go to Jesus, and He would take it all, and it never would define me again. Like, I never had to let those things define me again. Of course, we have to deal with some things, in the natural, depending on but I was able actually to handle them. This is really
Mhm.
the key to it, is that it didn't define me anymore. So I could look at my past from a perspective of, okay, I'm going to set this right so that we can continue on forward. And I was able to confront those things of my past, to set them straight, and to quit letting them to define me and pull me back into a place that, it was like this repetitive process, back and back and back. And I finally got the keys to move forward.
So one of the things that we've heard a lot about in recent years is that the kingdom is all about relationship,
Yes.
and that the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are always lived in community, and
Hmm.
so relationship is such a key thing. We don't come into the kingdom. We don't come into the family of God other than to be born again. So that means that there's a relational paradigm or the relational thing to embrace.
Hmm.
So what have you learned about relationship in particular in the last few years?
Wow, there's a lot to cover in that, because I think so much of the kingdom is relationship. So much of what I learned is relationship over the last couple of years. Some key things, I think, is that, um, again, I don't let my past relationships define where I go in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've learned that relationship can happen. That there is a brother that sticks, or a friend that sticks closer than a brother. Sorry, and I've learned that there's so much to talk about in that, Mark. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I know some of those things.
Hmm.
So one of the things that I kept doing with you, as I've done with lots of other people, is to call them up. It's just to call you up and
Mhm.
talk to you.
Mhm.
So tell us about what that was like for you.
Well, let's see. I was confused and frustrated at first because you would call me and say, "Hey, how's it going?" I'd be like, "Oh, like how's it going?" I'm like, "It's good," and I would have, of course, I could, being an external processor, I could tell you so much about my day, and you just be like, "Okay, well, that's good. Yep, you're having a good day. I'm having a good day. It was good to talk to you. Just wanted to touch bases," and then you would say, "Gotta go," and you'd hang up. And at first I was like, what is this guy doing? Because I'm like, so much I'm used to, if I call somebody, usually it's for something, whether it's for work, so I need something, or I need to talk to somebody because I'm having a bad day, or I need to ask them a question, but I don't really think that we ever sit in our day and just say, I think I'm going to call this guy and just see how he's doing, just to connect, to show him I'm here, that I care, to see where this thing goes. So that was definitely, it was different for me at first. I love it now. I always like getting that random phone call from you. It really does speak.
Well, the interesting thing, isn't it, that I think in the kingdom environment, the church environment, and life too, like you've just
Mhm.
explained, that functional relationships, so that relationships that are based on a function, like based on the doing, are pretty predominant. And
Mhm.
so that relationships that are based on just being, which it means that we just connect for the just not for the sake of connecting, for the sake of just and out of that we can talk about doing, because you and I, talk on a regular basis, and we do
Yeah.
get to talk about being stuff, what you did or
Oh,
that sort of stuff. But it's very much about, and I think there's so many people have lost sight of that, so that it becomes functional. So it becomes, and the difficulty of that is that when there's no longer function there, or there's nothing to talk about as a problem, or there's nothing, then there's no connection.
yeah. Hmm.
It'd be a little bit like talking to the Father, talking to the Holy Spirit, talking to Jesus, when you've only got a problem or you've only got something to talk about. It's not about
Yeah. Oh,
connecting just for the sake
yeah.
of
Yeah, just ringing up the father to say, "Hey, what's going on? Just wanted to touch bases and see what's up." Yeah,
connecting.
I definitely do that a lot now. I have a conversation with the father all through the day, and
Yeah. Hmm.
I would say it's actually down. It's down 25% talking about maybe things that are problematic in my day, and more
Hmm.
75% about, like, what's the future look like? What are we going to do together? I'm excited, Lord. This is what I'm excited about. I talked to him about my excitement. Well,
Mm.
I'm so excited to see this happening.
I've heard prophets say, one in particular, that it takes 15 to 20 years to train another prophet. And that's only with mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
So, mentoring, is really so important. I think there's a difference between coaching and mentoring. For me, mentoring is much more like fathering. And so, how's that? Excuse me. How's that work for you?
When I'm sitting here thinking about it, kind of the picture I get is like, even with me and my children, I have a 6-year-old little boy, and I'll go outside and I'll play with him, and we discover together. So neither one of us have seen some of the things we're going to do outside, and we discover it together. And so it's not that I know everything and that I'm going to go show him some things, but it's actually that we go discover it together. We go have fun, and he's actually telling me things. Like even tonight, my son was showing me this little Christmas village that he built. And he was so meticulous about where he put it, and he wanted me to come and discover it with him. And so, I really think that the mentoring over, like the teaching, or however you want to call it, I think it's much about that give and take we talk about in relationship. That you when you don't just ask me for permission to speak into my life, you actually give me permission to speak in your life at the same time that you're asking permission to speak into my life.
Yeah, and I think that's exchange is really a vital part of relationship.
Yeah.
Again, I think when it's much more functional, it becomes more hierarchical. you know, it's like, well, okay, I'm the father, you're the son, you know, and particularly it's like that sort of concept, which I think is um, for me is more problematic from the basis
Mhm.
of I like to work with somebody. It's like you said the other day about, you know, just my, you know, the relational aspect of me,
Yeah.
and I do better when I'm connecting people or I'm actually working with people. And I love that concept that you just shared about discovering some things, because we're on this journey, we're on this adventure is probably be even a better way,
Yeah. Mhm.
and discovering things with you and with other people is what it's meant to be like. It's meant to be like that discovery sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I think it's I would attribute a lot of my fast growth. You know, you talk about over the last 3 years, it's been a very rapid growth, and it really has been. And I would really attribute a lot of that to that. I did it with you. So it's not that I served you. You know, I think of as a father to my children, my job is to represent the father to them, so that once they move out from underneath of me, they know how to look at a father, because I've displayed the best I can on earth what it is to be in relationship with the Father.
Yep.
And so I feel like that's a lot of what you've done in my life, is that you've encouraged me to come along and discover with you, and to sit on your shoulders, and to go places, and to
Mhm.
see the things that you get to see. You know, I can get in a car and drive somewhere where my child can't, but I can put him in the car and take him with me, and then we get to go discover those things together. And
Yep.
so I attribute a lot. I think that's a lot of the growth, the explosive growth I've had is you doing
Yep.
that with me.
So you're a general contractor, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, and you have a company there in Texas.
Yes.
Um, and what have you? What's some sorts of things? And this is another big one of questions. But what are some of the sorts of things that you've discovered about being a business person, being a marketplace person from a kingdom perspective?
You know, the biggest thing, again, I mean, we're going to be here, we'd be on this all night, is relationship. I can tell you, the people I work with, the other business owners, I have contractors, obviously electrical contractors, plumbing contractors, all these contractors I work with. Um, I've forged a relationship, so I care about them. I mean, some of these guys I work with send me pieces of their personal life, and I didn't ask them to. I didn't invite them into. Actually, it's just that they can tell I care about them. When I go to a job site to talk with them, we talk shop, but I also, hey, how's it going? And I genuinely care, and I speak into their life, like you know, not, you know what I'm saying. It's just I invite them in to give me advice as well as give them advice. And there's a the kingdom brings in a relational aspect where these people they're lacking that. We're all created to need relationship in that aspect. And so I've seen it be beneficial for them and me, because in relationship it really is beneficial to them, because I help them in every way I can.
Yep.
And then for me, during some hard times, I mean, I have some good stories about during the hard times, even with the COVID-19 thing we're going through, where these relationships have really paid off isn't the right word, but they've really come through. Like,
Mhm.
and they wanted to help me through it. Like they felt good. Like it wasn't they weren't compelled to. They didn't feel like they had to. They wanted to.
So, what's some of those? Can you tell any of those stories? Obviously, you don't want to give full of the details, but can you tell some of those sorts of stories?
Yeah, so I would two main ones. One is that one of the big box retailers that I work with that provides most of my lumber, faucet supplies and stuff. Really in the store, so we're known as the easiest contractors to work with. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say they mess up and they mess my order up. Now
Hmm.
I could go in there guns a blazing, and I could treat them like crap, and I could say I paid for this, I deserve this, you messed up, all these things.
Hmm.
Or I could go in relationship, and I could say, hey, I know you made a mistake,
Hmm.
and all I know is we just need to make this mistake fixed. Like, can we just, like, I'm not going to yell, you don't yell. I don't actually care whose fault it is at this point. Let's fix the problem, then let's go to who's the problem. or who caused the problem. And by doing that, they have told us to our face, we're known in that store as the contractor you want to work with. All the employees flock to us and want to work with us because we're nice to them, we care about them, and we have a relationship. I know most of the employees by name in there. They know my phone number by heart. They know my name. They know who my family is. I mean, it's like they just know me because they care. And it's paid off huge on that one, because we've just had some really big things through COVID, and they've really told us, they're like, hey, you have always, you treat us good. You don't come in here and be a complete jerk. And so we want to help you. I didn't ask for it. I went in there not asking for them to help me. I just went saying, hey, I got a problem. What can we do? And they're just like, hey, we're just going to completely take care of it for you.
So that's representing the King,
yeah,
and heaven in a great sort of a way. Well, wow, hey, well done. One of the things that I talk about is that I think in Christian business, what causes a business to be more kingdom is what I call triple bottom line. So I think every business wants to be profitable. I mean, if you're not profitable and you're in business,
you're not in business.
You're not in business. And so this is profit, and then I think the next one is sustainable. You want to be a business you want to be able to stay in business. And then the third one is transformational. I think that's the kingdom aspect, is that we want to be, because we're doing business, we want to be able to bring about transformation in the industry that they're in, transformation of people, transformation of the people we work with, the people that we do business for. We want to see an effect by us being in business. So that's a good expression of that, is that the people want to work with you. It's probably a sad indictment, is that there are some companies that are trying to be a kingdom company that people don't want to do work with because of their attitude or their behavior. So well done. So anything else that you can tell of stories of, even in this time? This is a supplier. What about
so another one is one of my framer. There's a couple. So I would say, just really quick to cap, is that God really has a way of bringing young businesses to us, where we have the chance to help them grow. We give them financial advice. We show them how to bid in their market. And some of these people will go and bid other jobs, call me and say, hey, like, do you think I bid this fair? Do you think it's a good price? Like, am I within the market? And they trust me to help them with that, to help them be in the market, to give them my personal experiences of working in this industry. But my framer, he's one of those. He's one of the best framers around, and so he's highly sought after. And what I mean is, like, I'll be on the job with him, and he'll get 2 or 3 calls for people that want him to come frame their homes, and he's turning them down. Because he's so busy, he can't handle. He has 2 crews, and there's one other contractor in me that he's pretty much completely doing work for us now. He's pretty much pushed everybody out, and he says, terms he uses with me is like, don't worry about it. Money or a bill to you is like money in the bank. He's like, I always know you're good for your money. And there's times, one of the things that happened with him is one of the first couple of jobs we did, we made a mistake. I told him to do something wrong. And I went in and I was like, darn it, I'm sorry about that. I know we're going to have to tear some of that out and fix it. What do I owe you? And he looks at me and kind of looks at me for a second. He goes, because you said that, you owe me nothing. He said, I'll tell you what, as long as we're always on a relationship where you never think I'll give you anything free, then I'll always give it to you for free. Because, because he's just, and really through this COVID thing, he was like this huge pivotal point to us, because some of the lumber, he works with a local lumber company that's one of the bigger ones in our area, and he's their preferred contractor. He always pays his bill. He's been there for 30 years. He's done all this stuff. And when the lumber got scarce, they set aside lumber, and they gave 5 contractors insurance into this lumber. He was one of them. And
Mhm.
he came to us and the other builder and said, I'm going to give you the exclusive rights to buy this lumber because
Mhm.
you always treat me fair. And this is just the way I feel like I can bless you back.
Mhm.
And so we were able to continue through COVID when a lot of other builders were having a problem finding materials and having to source so many areas. We had this storehouse full of materials that we only had access to because of his relationship to the company and then our relationship to him. And so,
So, so I also know that you're um, on an adventure in lots of aspects. Like here we are, adventuring together or adventuring
mhm,
together on live stream.
mhm.
But some things have happened also for you too. Just coming out of the company that you're in, and you're heading into something else. What's that looking like for you? Your future?
Oh man, I've actually been talking about that with some people and really thinking about that. And I just really feel like just obviously in a transition. It's really about. I heard a good analogy somebody gave. They said it's time that we burnt the ships. It was like Cortez. He went over.
Hmm.
And he knew his guys kept running back to the beach, and so he finally knew. He burned the ships because he knew. And then you know what they did? They started winning the war because they had no option. They went
Yep.
all in, and
Hmm.
so it really set well with me of like this is me kind of burning some ships. It's like I've always had some comfort zones. I've always had some things to fall back on, and the Lord's really just calling me to burn some of those ships and have go for it. He's like, just go for it. Let's do it. And so, um, I think I'm going to put a new spin on ministry. So I think I'm going to go in the ministry, but it's not going to be. It's the ministry in the marketplace,
Hmm.
and that can look like so much.
Hmm.
That's to discover, right? Like really, I think it's something that needs to be discovered. I haven't seen it done. I've seen it in some ways, but what I'm thinking about, I think is something completely new that I mean, it could be being done, but I haven't heard about it.
Yep.
Um,
So we often used to talk about um, uh, we've been talking about in recent times the this the separation that has existed between what we would call sacred, church, and
mhm,
secular, which would
mhm,
be more the marketplace.
mhm,
And of course, what we've come to realize is that there isn't that separation. There is no such thing.
mhm,
We believed it for a lot of times, or experienced it a lot of times, because there is that separation sorts of things. Um, but I think it's really an interesting thing to actually discover. What does it actually look like to live holistically? What does it live to like in that place where there isn't that separation between, oh, this is my church thing, this is my God thing, and this is my secular, which is over
mhm,
here. Um, and I've seen you transition from that sort of a thinking or that sort of a place
mhm.
into a place, and I've seen an accelerated place for you in that. So it really is going to be exciting to see where the Lord takes you into. How are you feeling about stepping into nothing, almost?
I'm at more peace than I ever have been in my life. I mean, that's the absolute truth. You know, just having a prophetic niche about me, being one of the giftings I have, I tend to uh, try to see. I'm trying to always be one step ahead. It's kind of one of those things. So through most of my life, if I knew something was coming to an end, I was always trying to put something in place as a safety guard. So when that came to an end, I had something to lean on. And so this is the first time I've ever done that where I've just burnt the ships. I'm like, okay, God, like, I've always owned property or been in a business.
Hmm.
And so I'm now transitioning out of the business, which is it's been a really good transition. It's going more better than I thought it was going to. God's been so faithful in that area of my life. But also, we're renting a house now. So the Lord called us to sell our home and move. And so we're now living in a rental home. So really, I just know we're in a place where God can take us wherever we want. and that might not even be to move to a different city or something, but it's what's in the physicals and the spiritual, and we're just in a place of no ties. And so I'm just really at peace about it. I really think there's, some of the words I've got is that God wants to surprise me. He's got surprises for me. And I really just think I'm not worried about it. We're going to get there and we'll see what the surprise looks like. But he's faithful. He's faithful. So,
yeah. Well, one of the comments that's come up is from my friend Kevin, who says, God has put you in an awesome position to speak into people's lives.
Yes.
Which is such a true word, because I've seen it, the people that he's put you into. But it's also discovering the grace that's on your life, right? And you talk about prophetic and being a prophetic person. How have you learned to step it more and more into that? I mean, I've seen it when you've been with me, So talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so really, it's something. Of course, it's something God had on my life most of my life. I just didn't realize what it was because I didn't have somebody to put definition on that for me. I tell people, I did have a part of my life where I partied and I did my thing. Thank God that He called me back into this. But during that time, I even thought sometimes it was awkward as people would just sit next to me and would open their lives up to me. And it was like I just had these supernatural keys for them. And so, I look back now and I see that I've really operated into a lot, most of my life. But it was just I was like, okay, that was weird, but maybe I'm smart or something. I don't know. And so, after I met you, really, I'm a very emotional person. I'm a feeler. I feel atmosphere, all that. And so it was a lot of confusion really through most of my childhood of just, what am I feeling and why do I feel this way? And just kind of being like a pinball kind of, bounced around. And so, I remember sitting at a little restaurant on a Saturday morning with you, and I started describing to you these things, like I feel these things, and this is this, and this is this, and you just looked at me and said, well, yeah, it's all prophetic, and it was like it clicked. It's one of those simple things. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And so as I started looking at it from that perspective, like, hey, what does that look like? Stepping into it, but really one of the things that I've seen myself operating in lately has been like wisdom and knowledge. Like coupled almost like that, words of knowledge and words of wisdom. And of course, God surprises me. I'll be talking to people and I'm like, I got to write this down because it's just, it's like, whoa, this is good. This is good stuff, and so it's really been, as you would know, Mark, it's been it's confidence. It's really been a journey for me so it was always there, but it was the confidence to move into it. And I've watched over the last 2.5 years as it went from I heard God speak and then I spoke to I had to push in for a word. So it wasn't just there. It was like, okay, why am I not getting a word? And so I had to push in. Then it went to where I'd push in and still not get anything. And really the what I'm in right now that the Lord's really taking me through is it's just a part of who I am. I just when people are just pressing in for a word or some wisdom or something, the Lord just works. And I'm amazed at it every time.
So one of the things that I've noticed is that receiving is a really big thing for God.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than we realize. So, people think that receiving is almost putting your hands out and waiting for it to fall in your lap. Whereas, I think that receiving is, if you examine the words in the Greek, it's much more about taking. It's about grabbing hold of and bringing into you, pulling into you. And so there's a demand, or there's an intentionality about receiving, not just putting your hands out and waiting for it to fall in your lap.
Yeah.
So So, any sorts of things that you've learned on that about receiving? Because I think a lot of people uh, have to learn more about receiving, because it does seem to be a big thing to God. Because He says, like, if you receive a prophet, you're going to get a prophet's
Prophet's
reward.
reward.
If you
Yeah.
receive a righteous man, you're going to get a righteous man's reward. So,
Mhm.
receiving does seem to be pretty big to Him. Any thoughts?
Well, first I'd like to kind of back up what you talked about is like taking.
Hmm.
Sometimes receiving is kind of about taking. Um, so there's certain people in my life, and you being one of them, where when we use the word demand, it's not like I force you or handcuff you, but I put a demand on the spirit realm for you. I mean, you come around me and I just start asking questions, and you're just, and I'm like, Mark, give me some answers here. And so it's really, I want to receive, so I'm putting a demand on the receiving.
Hmm.
I'm like,
Hmm.
here's this. Now give me something, like,
Yep.
and, in a relational way, of course. But it's
Yeah.
like, I'm expecting something, Mark. Like, you're here, you came to visit me. You don't get to come and then just leave without some kind of deposit being made. And of course, you
Hmm.
take a deposit as well. And it's done things to my marriage. It's done so much. But I would say the most significant times I've received from the Lord has been, I don't remember the exact verse, but it talks about, really like almost grasping for the heels or the ankles
Hmm.
of God.
Hmm.
There's been times where I've had some intense prayer where I really envision that as I'm praying. I'm like, Lord, I'm dragging this thing out. Like, I'm not, it's not that you have to give it to me, but it's that I'm putting a demand on it. You said that I could have these things, like wisdom. I prayed for that for a year. We talked about that. I said,
Hmm.
Lord, you said that ask for wisdom and it will be given to you. And I'm like, so I'm asking, so I'm demanding that, I'm putting a demand on it, not
Hmm.
demanding you, but I'm putting a demand on it to receive
Hmm.
it. And then
Hmm.
it was really, but then there has a point where then you have to receive.
Hmm.
And so you have to quit asking for something you can receive, and
Hmm.
then you have to set back in peace from a
Hmm.
place of peace, and you have to receive.
Hmm.
And so I think that's the thing that I've learned about receiving is that there's a time to put a demand on it, and then there's a time to sit back and receive it, and to have faith for the receiving. To
Yep.
you know, like with the wisdom thing, I asked for wisdom. I'm not starting. I have been walking in it and seeing it grow, and so now I'm thankful for it. It's like,
Yep.
oh, I see that, Lord. Oh, I see it. Like, you're
Hmm.
okay. You're giving it to me. Thank you.
Hmm.
Like, yes, like I got it, and I'm gonna grip that.
Yep.
And so it's not about asking about it for it anymore. It's about receiving and just pulling it in.
What else have you found about receiving from anointings from other people? You
Oh
know,
yeah.
what's that look like?
Well, so there's as of right now, I think there's about 3 people. But anyway, there's some people in my life that I'm close enough to where really it's relationship can be, it does become covenantal if you take it to
Yep.
that point.
Yep.
Where it's really like I want to do life with you. And I think of Elijah and Elisha.
Hmm.
Um, and that's really what Elijah was putting on him. He's saying, like, no, I want a double portion, and I'm going to go wherever you go. Like, I'm hanging on. I'm making a covenant with you that you're not
Hmm.
leaving. And so, like, you being here, you're one of them that really, when you're in my presence, I always have high expectations when you come, because I love the atmosphere that we cultivate together.
Hmm.
That's really the thing, is it's not that you necessarily bring the atmosphere and I get to experience it. It's that we together cultivate this atmosphere and we both partake.
Hmm.
We both get to just experience something that apart we don't get.
Hmm.
And so, like in the prophetic, when I'm with you, I operate on a much higher and
Yep.
accurate level of the prophetic word, because I'm getting to operate in both my anointing and yours. But I do not get that with people that I'm not in covenant with.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's one of the key things is partaking of the anointing, and that's what really excites me about this adventure that we're going on with these live streams.
Mm.
I would say one of the things that I've really seen from you from the first time that I met you until today, I know there's been difficult times. I know there's been some wrestling and some things that you've had to go through. It hasn't been just an easy, plain sailing moment. In fact, it's probably been me even more challenging over the last few years than at any time, because of some hard decisions and some difficult stuff that you've had to go and to deal with. But I've also seen an acceleration. And I've seen the acceleration that's been on your life, and how acceleration has been working in your life. And that's what excites me about it, because I know that the synergy that exists, that we can operate in, can also be imparted to people as they hear us, as they listen to some of the stories and some of the testimonies and some of the things that we get to share. And that's what exciting me, because I think that we can release that to other people. I think it's really also exciting for people who are in your age bracket or under, who are really making a way, or in the marketplace, or in business, or entrepreneurial thinking, or whatever else, can also hear and receive that, yes, there is, this does work. You know, it's like, yes, you can hear from God, and implement things, whether it be from wisdom or words of knowledge or prophetic thing, and not live in a weird way, but operate in a way that it may challenge you, but it can really work. It can make a difference in other people's lives. It can make a difference and bring about transformation. And it's almost like when we realize that things are normal. And I don't mean normal for a normality all around about us, but normal from a kingdom point of view. From heaven's perspective, certainly these sorts of things are normal. And that's one of the things that I've seen, that you have come to realize, that even though these were crazy things that were happening to you, or crazy things around about you, it was actually normal for your gifting. It was normal from heaven's perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that the interesting thing is that we're going to be able to define, and you said this a while ago, and I clicked, and I thought, this is what the apostolic prophetic does, is it defines things that people have in their heart, that people have experienced, and actually to give it definition and describe what that looks like, and be able to say, hey, this is really, from heaven's perspective, quite normal. And to validate it, and to validate people, and to be able to help people to understand, hey, you are normal. You're not crazy. You're not weird.
Yeah.
You know?
I get that a lot with people. A lot of people get some freedom because, that they tell me, oh, yeah, I'm just so weird. And I'm like, oh, let me tell you a couple stories. And then they look at me and they're like, you're weird. And
I've seen some of those things, happening around about it. And I think, the kingdom of heaven, is weird, or eternity is weird. You only have to read something like Revelation to, hear some of those wild, sorts of things. But it's not weird from heaven's perspective, and I think that we have, that's what adventure is. Adventure, exploration, going into new places. It's exactly that. It should challenge you. If you can explain your life, if people can explain your life, if you're living an explainable life, then you are not living to the extent that you should be, because our lives are meant to be unexplainable. It's like, what is that about? I have no idea. I haven't even got any words for it.
Yeah.
That's what life is meant to be like. It's meant to be like that, because if you can explain everything, you're probably God.
Yeah.
And that's not how it's meant to be. I think we got to learn how to be okay with mystery. What does that look like? Don't know. What is that? I don't know. Because sometimes you can only understand something as you look back and say, oh, now I understand what that is. So I'm really looking forward to this, the this first time together was to introduce you and to hear people understand, who Daniel is and what it's going to be like with Mark and Daniel working together on this. And I'm excited about it. Yeah, it's Daniel. I'm excited about it as we get to also bring some other people along to join with us and to talk about the kingdom and what the kingdom looks like from a relational context, from a marketplace place. What does the kingdom on earth look like? We don't have all of the answers, and we're both external processors or processors, as you Americans say. And so, I'm looking forward to discovering in this sort of environment, what does that look like? So, really encourage you to join us. We'll be doing this on a weekly basis, and come and join. Come and join me and Daniel as we discover the kingdom on earth, to discover some relational context of certain things, to discover what does it look like. So, Daniel, I'm really excited about embarking on this journey together with you.
Yeah, I am too. So we'll go pioneer some things.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to discovering some things. This first time is really just talking about you and helping people to get to know you. But the next time that we're on, we'll be exploring, what does it look like to live in royalty? What does it look like to live as kings? What does it look like to live as sons? What does it look like to do business from a kingdom aspect? You've got lots of stories, lots of testimony of so I think one of the things that you said a minute ago was about wisdom. Wisdom is the correct application of knowledge. I think that we've been very good at talking about things. We've been very good at talking about knowledge, and that so we should. We have a lot of teachers. Paul said you have a lot of teachers, but you have very few fathers. And a father is about how to apply what you know. Fathering is about how do you do the knowing. And I think that's what I'm really looking forward to, is explaining some of those sorts of things, because you have a good way of being able to put in a practical application, because that's the environment that you work in a whole lot. And so that's going to be really fun as well. And it's going to be good to have some of our friends come on too and chat with us and share some things. So
it'll be good time.
We're looking forward to that. And so make some contacts if you're hearing this, as in a replay. It'll be posted on a couple Facebook sites. It's on YouTube. So if you're hearing that today, just receive from us a hunger, a desire, and partake of that acceleration that Daniel's in as well. You can take hold of it. You can grab hold of it and say, hey, what's he's doing, what he's working in, I want to have that too. And so when you put that sort of demand upon on the Father, upon the kingdom, you get to receive of that, because demand and hunger is a really, really, really important thing. So it's been great to have you, Daniel. Like I said, I'm just so excited about this adventure together with you. And, I look forward to when we're on again in about a week's time. So if you've got some thoughts, people have got some thoughts, make some comments, share this, let other people hear this, because we want the message to get out to about doing life in the kingdom, in particularly in the marketplace in life. Anything else you want to say, Daniel, as we come to a conclusion?
Actually, I just was kept hearing kind of this word. I just really feel like for people, what I really hope some of the things that people get from this is hope, like just to have a hope for some of these things that we're talking about, to just have a renewed hope for some of the crazy things, I would say, and to dream and vision again. That's really, I think, I really like to say excitement, that people would just capture an excitement to start thinking, what could it be, and what if, and then to put a couple hope on top of that, like let's dream and then let's hope for our dreams.
Yeah, let's because no matter what's going on around us, and there's a huge chaos, and there's a lot of discouragement around about us, and a lot of hopelessness. But you know as well as I do, I've said this time and time again, our best days are still ahead of us. The
Yes.
best days, the greatest days of the kingdom on this earth are still ahead for us, and we want to just impart that excitement. If you're listening to this again, one of the things that Daniel just said was about a rediscovery of dreams, a rediscovery of hope, a rediscovery and excitement for the things that are yet to come for you. The best days, your best days, are still ahead of us, and we look forward to helping you to discover that. We look forward to help you, because sometimes just a word, just one word that you hear, can really make a difference. So look forward to connecting with people again. Look forward to being on live stream again in about a week's time. Thanks, Daniel. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark.